Hello and hello. Thank you for joining me today, especially you, Simon. Simon sent in this video. American Jews reclaim German citizenship. Damn. That's quite a headline. That's very interesting. Who saw that coming? Like 80 years ago, I mean. Who saw that coming? Well, it's happening. Let's see why. This is very interesting. I mean, I imagine it's got to do with Trump? I don't know. Well, we'll get it. Let me see. This is by a small and up-and-coming channel, by the way. DW News.
These people are doing what was once unthinkable. They're Jewish American families with Holocaust history, and they're reclaiming German citizenship. They want the option of returning to the country which murdered 6 million of their kind.
Well, it has a lot to do with the Trump administration.
There you go. That's quite a full circle moment, though, huh? For Germany.
Father already had to flee.
Hopefully that makes the Germans feel proud, because I feel like it should. You know?
One country. I mean, he's no longer alive, but given that family history, I feel compelled to have a plan B.
For many years, I thought that what happened in Germany could only have happened in Germany. I now realize that was wrong.
Wow, pretty powerful. I mean, I've never really understood that kind of mindset. Like, or to me, obvious. I mean, I shouldn't say obvious because I guess it's not obvious, but to me, 90% of humans are just, you know, what the 90% of what makes us human is all shared among all of us, or 98%, you know. The 2% difference is like cultural differences and stuff, which is important, but for the most part, you know, I mean, are we all capable of falling to a cult of personality? Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe not all of us, but is a certain percentage of the population capable, given any population, you know, no matter where you go in the world. I think if you have 1,000 people, a certain percentage of them are capable of falling for that, because it's just in our DNA.
It could happen here. It may happen here.
So I think it's a terrible political environment here. We're deeply concerned about the...
I am slightly interested and intrigued by the fact that it's Jewish people. You know, Jewish people are not being persecuted by the government in America. In fact, a large critique and a large fracture going through MAGA right now is that Donald Trump is actually too in bed with Netanyahu, if you will, and Israel. Which, I mean, I think there's a distinction between Israel and Jews. But anyway, my point is, it's kind of like the opposite critique.
The sort of erosion of our democratic norms.
Those at the German consulate getting their passports are not the only ones. Ruth Greenthal is 103 years old and one of the oldest Holocaust survivors.
I guess I should say the obvious, which is that there are many parallels between, like, Donald Trump and Hitler, you know? I mean, a very obvious comparisons to make. They're both fascists, obviously. So, you know, they're both authoritarians. I'm just saying, as a group, Jews aren't the target of MAGA. Well, I shouldn't say that so broadly. Donald Trump. But then again, that could flip on a dime. Who freaking knows how Donald Trump feels about the Jews tomorrow? He doesn't actually stand on any principles. He doesn't actually have any principles or anything. You know what I mean? So, could he be the most anti-Semitic person tomorrow? Yeah, absolutely. If it suited him.
Who just got her German passport back. The Nazi regime took away her German citizenship because she's Jewish. She started the process when it looked like Trump was likely to win a second.
That's incredible that Germany took it away, and now look how far it's come to where she's getting it back. That's amazing.
time.
All in her lifetime. That's amazing.
I mean, and really evoked feelings that I thought I would never, in my lifetime, I would not have to deal with this again.
Do you think Donald Trump is anti-Semitic?
Basically, yes.
Wow. That's an interesting viewpoint. I've never heard that. I'm obviously willing to hear her out. But that's an interesting viewpoint that I've never heard. Donald Trump anti-Semitic.
I mean, it's hard to know he's anti whatever is not good for him.
Yes. Well
I mean,
said.
he will use anti-Semitism.
He would,
he has
yes.
his family has a long history of housing discrimination against anyone of color.
Black people.
And Jews as well, I'm sure. I think he thinks the Jews are black.
Whoa. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to listen. I don't even know. I'm just listening in terms of that type of stuff. I'm not going to bother trying to interject. Because she has a totally unique experience and, mindset toward these things that I don't know. So it's like, I don't even really know what she means by saying she thinks Donald Trump thinks Jews are black.
Recent events have undermined her feeling of belonging in the US, where she's lived for most of her life.
I would certainly introduce myself as foreign-born, but American. And now I would put a question mark.
She was born in 1922 in Hamburg, one of two daughters of the successful publisher Kurt Enoch. Their mother died of tuberculosis in 1934.
Which role did it play when you grew up that you were Jewish? Did you?
Very little. We were barely cultural Jews. The Jewish community in Hamburg was particularly assimilated. My father was an officer in World War I. The family got permission to live where Jews were usually not allowed to live and to do work that Jews were usually not allowed to do because of bravery in the war.
Your father being an officer in the First World War, how did he kind of approach the fact when Hitler came to power? How did he deal with that? Did he understand from the beginning on?
What was shocking to him was that people he considered his friends turned out to be Nazis.
Wow. That's devastating. Shit. Some people are just very feeble-minded, Very disappointingly feeble-minded. Fall for some shit like that. Damn. But, you can compare it to other things, Like, you might know someone who's racist, and it's like, but not against, this person, they're like, this black friend is cool, but, I can think of one person in my life who seemed to be that way. It's like, what the hell?
Hamburg in particular, the Jewish community almost was on an equal footing. They were in government positions and so on and so forth.
That's an interesting piece of history there.
So whatever anti-Semitism there was very, very sort of indirect.
In 1935, the Nazi regime enacted the Nuremberg Laws, stripping German Jews of many rights and their citizenship.
Obviously it was a cult, right? That's how I view these types of things. And you think of cults, when you think of more small scale cults, they'll convince their members anything. That's how feeble-minded humans are, unfortunately. It's just, they'll convince, all of a sudden, you'll have a perfectly normal person who gets indoctrinated into a cult and they disown their family, turn into a totally different person, and it's all because of this cult. this weird. It's like a glitch in people's brains that like it's taken over. It's like a virus. It's taken over.
It was clear then, if it hadn't.
So I believe it. You know what I mean? These people that were their family friends, and are all of a sudden Nazis. It's like, why? How are you a Nazi? But I could see. I mean, it's hard to understand. On one hand, it's hard to understand, but I do comprehend that that's possible.
Been before, the Jews had no place in the Third Reich. In 1939, Ruth's father sent her and her sister Miriam to boarding school in France. The following year, the Nazis invaded France and Ruth was arrested.
Wow.
The collecting point for being shipped to these internment camps was the Velodrome d'Hiver, the famous Veldiv, which of course doesn't exist anymore, which was this bicycle racing stadium, and we were housed in the stalls. And I remember making this kind of little place where I put my towel and so forth, and so tried to make myself a little home wherever I was.
After that, they were sent to the French internment camp Gurs, around 80 kilometers from the border with Spain.
The circumstances were pretty terrible. Gurs especially was built on clay ground, so every time it rained, it turned into a complete morass. And then because of things breaking down, the transportation of food, so they were not trying to starve us, there was simply no food coming in. There was a problem of getting enough to eat, there was a problem of trying to keep dry. It looked very much, the pictures of that camp looks like a concentration camp. They offered those people who were willing to go out of the camp discharge papers. Many people didn't take them up on it because they had no money, they had no place to go, etc., etc.
Ruth could afford it and left the camp. But she stayed in the area hoping that family members would find her. It worked. Ruth's father arrived, but soon they realized they had to move on.
I made a trip to go, I walked somewhere to go near where the entrance to the camp was, and saw German SS go in because the Vichy government had allowed them to go in, and so they were starting to go in and deport people.
Spain was close and a haven for Jews fleeing the Nazis.
There was a sort of an underground railroad kind of communication that you had to go to a certain bathroom and you could climb up there's a window high up that you could climb up to, you could climb out and you could bypass. So my sister and I had to go through that bathroom exit from the train station to get past the checkpoints. So my father said, if they come through the train and check your papers, jump out of the train, to my sister and me.
So you were very aware that you were like
I can't believe people actually lived through this.
17, 18?
17.
And that was the moment when you really knew.
Well, I mean, I think that much as I sort of tried to kind of put one foot in front of the other in whatever situation I was in, I was certainly aware of danger. I was not inside a concentration camp being daily threatened with being killed. It was not that kind of, but it was very clear that we were threatened on all sides. That people discovered we were German, people discovered we were Jewish. It was.
Wow.
Both were dangerous.
Wow, I didn't think about that.
They traveled all the way through Spain, heading for Portugal and eventually the USA.
When you approached Madrid, there was not a blade of green to be seen. Still from the Civil War, everything was just completely destroyed.
In Lisbon, influential friends of her father got Ruth and her sister transatlantic passage on the Nea Hellas. Their new lives began as soon as they boarded.
The life on board the ship was luxurious. They had deck chairs, and we had trouble dealing with eating regular food again. So I remember getting sick and having to learn that you had to limit how much you ate, and so there were places where there were white tablecloths. So it was like getting into a different reality altogether. But we made it, and we arrived in Hoboken.
Ruth built a career as a psychotherapist in the United States and a family. She has 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. All 3 are also now German citizens. The idea of having a different option is obviously becoming appealing to many. American applications for restoration of German...
Wait, so what do we got here? Naturalizations and applications. Wow. That's quite telling, isn't it? Holy shit. It's way up in just a few years. Jesus Christ, man.
German citizenship removed by Nazis have more than doubled in the last 4 years in New York alone.
That should be just a red flag, you know what I mean? These people who fled persecution came to America, came to the United States, and, you know, it really was like a shining light to them, you know, of freedom. And now they're leaving. It's not a good sign. That ain't a good sign. Trump can't be fucking impeached and removed soon enough for me, man. It can't happen soon enough. The amount of damage. Permanent damage. That's what he's done. Permanent damage. Domestically, internationally, he's undermined. I don't mean to just be going on a random rant about Trump entirely, but this is just evoking a bit of that feeling in me. Okay? It's just a total tragedy. Total abomination.
As the Nazi regime stripped German Jews of
What I was going to say is he's undermined our democracy itself. You know, people's faith. I was thinking about it just today. People's faith in American democracy. Here in America, a huge portion of the people, maybe 30% of people, don't believe the results of American elections anymore. That is so damaging. And how long is that effect going to last? At least until those people are dead, you know, so it's, 50 years down the line, he's done permanent damage. Maybe not, I don't know if it's permanent, but it's 50 years worth of damage. Because we now have a huge portion of the population who don't even believe the results of our election. Which that is a tragedy. You know what I mean? I'm not sure what exactly was said here that connected my brain to that, but that's just what I'm thinking. It's part of the whole problem, you know?
their citizenship and deliberately made them stateless, Germany allows victims of that persecution and their descendants up to the grave.
I mean, because you have to think, part of the reason that's so disturbing is because even a rational actor who does not believe the election was fair, okay, what would you do in your country if you believed, you were convinced the elections are unfair? At this point, they've been stolen, they've been compromised, and they're not fair. Your political opponents have stolen the elections and compromised them and effectively taken away your right to vote and any opposition. What's the rational response to that? It's a very bad response. You know what I'm saying? So it's not true. You know, it's all based on something that's not true. I know it's extremely random. Let me get back to this.
Great grandchildren to reclaim German citizenship.
What
Sorry, what did he say?
of that persecution and their descendants up to the great-grandchildren to reclaim German citizenship.
what is threatening for you with Donald Trump?
Well, he blames the Jews or Zionism on a lot of things. We were just talking about the shooting in Minneapolis, and apparently now there's some sort of loose connection to George Soros, any number of things. But I also just think the whole...
That is very interesting. I must say that is very interesting. You know, as someone who I feel like I'm in touch with the American people for the most part, and of course there's a huge amount of people and a huge amount of different diverse groups of people here in America, and so they have their own perspectives and stuff. But that is one I did not know. I did not know there was a segment of the Jewish population that thinks Trump is anti-Semitic. Although, like, I don't want to be misleading on how I actually view it and feel about it. Like, I'm not saying Trump isn't anti-Semitic, and I'm not saying he wouldn't be. I just think, like we said at the beginning, like, he has no principles on any of this shit. He doesn't care about any of it, to be honest. That's my genuine opinion. Like, he doesn't care about Jews one way or the other. But if hating them would be politically, beneficial to him, then he would do it. He would hate them. He would persecute them. Absolutely. If loving them would be politically beneficial, he'll do that. So, yeah.
MAGA movement,
Now, there is portions of the MAGA movement. There's been a rise in anti-Semitism. Okay, that is true. And those people are obviously mostly right-wing. Well, okay, I should not say that. I should not say that. It is not mostly right-wing. It's actually both. Okay, both. Because of the war in Gaza and stuff, a lot of left-wing people, there's been a rise in anti-Semitism on the left, but also there's a rise in anti-Semitism on the right for different reasons, mostly because of the funding to Israel and stuff. They see that as, there's lots of conspiracies and stuff and concern about that. Am I making any frickin' sense? Probably not.
Yeah, I think 70% of all hate crimes in the U.S. now are against Jews. So it's not a comfortable feeling.
70% of all hate crimes are against Jews.
I live in Washington, D.C. I get to see.
Okay, I mean, I'd have to confirm that stat because that's an interesting stat.
Get a lot of posts, and we'll talk to our grandmother on the phone, and she'd say, "This is not good. This is not good."
It may happen here.
And the reason I guess I should, this is a very sensitive subject, guys. So I can imagine that anything I say, people can misinterpret. And it's like, there just aren't that many Jews here. For there to be 70% of hate crimes are against Jews, there's not that many Jews here. Now, there are in New York and in a couple other places, but really just not, the population is relatively small.
It wasn't the Germans. It was just...
Now, it is, the population of Jews on Earth is relatively small. America actually has a large portion of all Jews. We do. But in the overall U.S. population, it's relatively small.
people. It wasn't just in the German character, because
Sorry.
So it wasn't the...
Say, this is not good, this is not good.
It may happen here. So it wasn't the Germans. It was just people.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just in the German character, because the American character that I thought could never do anything like that.
Any belief on that would have been rooted more so, or should have been, frankly, rooted more so in our Constitution, you know? Maybe there's a belief that, with the U.S. Constitution and how well-structured it is with balances of power and giving a lot of power to the people with freedom of speech and even allowing the people to bear arms. You can't remove our guns. Okay? So the people have a lot of power. How is an authoritarian government going to take over America? Well, the people having guns and shit doesn't really matter if those people support the authoritarian government, it turns out. So there's your answer.
Is doing something like this.
Do you think there's a red line for you?
Although I will say, I have hope that the Constitution will prevail. It's obviously been trampled on by the Trump administration. I have hope that the judicial system is just slow. Trump is fast. He's done a ton of shit in 1 year. And it's all happened quickly. And it takes time, unfortunately, for the checks and balances to catch up. And I hope to fucking God they catch up quick and strongly. That's what I'm hoping.
When the moment would be there to leave the country, you know?
Oh, yes. There is. When they start coming for the Jews here, that'll be it. They're coming for brown people, black people, but they will come for the Jews. I'm convinced of that. They always do. And when that happens, Germany might be a way out.
Wow, that's quite a... Wow. I mean, I'm thinking about what she said. I'm just going to move on.
For some, the decision to become German is not politically motivated.
I think the main reason is just to really reconnect with who we are and to expand our possibilities with Europe.
Interesting, okay.
I've been wanting to pursue this for many, many years, and it took a long time to get the paperwork together, and my brother and I worked together to do it, and the political environment, well charged, is absent of my decision to pursue German citizenship.
Interesting.
And others are just hesitant to share their reasoning.
But we'd rather not get into that because I think right now he's paying more and more attention to what people say about him.
Wow, that is absolutely... Let me be careful how I phrase this, because I'm about to say it's absolutely disgraceful, but I'm not saying he's disgraceful. I'm saying the fact that someone feels that way here in America, and rightfully so, you know, they have reason to. Just the fact that they do feel that way is an absolute disgrace to our Constitution. That should be all you need to hear. The fact that people are scared to speak. We're in the country where the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights is the freedom of speech. The government cannot prosecute you for what you say. But people are afraid to say how they feel. That's a desecration to our country. So something needs to change quickly, because that's not right.
And he seems to be a very angry person, and it's hard to predict what angry people do when they feel slighted.
That unless you're Jewish, it's hard to appreciate that you are walking around with a feeling that your right to walk the earth could be questioned at any time. That certainly was sort of in the bone marrow, and it's certainly very much being revived right now.
Wow. Very, very fascinating perspective. Fascinating story by DW News. That was really fascinating. Did I say fascinating enough? Thank you for watching. Hopefully I didn't say something horribly offensive. But if I did, you know I didn't mean to. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.